Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for dialing in for our webinar. My name is Simona, and I am the Product Marketing Manager at Blackbird. At Blackbird, we help companies start and also advance in their smart factory journey. We have created this webinar series with the aim to inspire you on this journey. So we will bring several episodes where we present different topics and we bring different speakers. I will quickly run a small question to you just to make sure that you hear me well and you can see me well. So please answer. That's great. It looks like everyone can hear me okay. Yes, I have to. I want to share with you some practical notes. So if you at any time experience any technical issues, please write me in the chat, and we will try to fix it as soon as possible. And all the questions you might have along Lina's presentation, please start writing them in the Q&A section, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation, where we have allocated 10 minutes for that. And also, just so you know, at the end of the webinar, everyone will receive an email with a link to the recording of the webinar. So I will hand over to Lina, which is our guest speaker, and I will let her introduce herself. Emendo, the company where she's partner at, and also introduce the topic for today. And right, the mic is yours, Lina.
Can you hear me, Simona?
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
Very good. And you can also see my screen?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Line, and I'm heading up a small company called Emendo Improvement. And in my daily life, I've worked with lean improvements, with Six Sigma projects, and with digital transformation projects. And I'm here today to give you a presentation of how we see the difference between the digitalization winners and losers. And I must say, English is my second language, so bear with me. I will do my very best to be clear. But let's get started. I have 20 minutes and a lot of things to say, so I will do my best to keep track of time. But first of all, we believe that the first important note in terms of the difference between winners and losers of digitalization is that winners, they recognize that they are on a journey. And when that is said, it also needs to be towards a clearly defined destination. And what is important for us in this is that a journey without a clearly defined destination is really difficult to understand and to foresee for those of you who need to move with you in the journey. So for us, a clearly defined destination is crucial. And when we started to work with digitalization, we had to define our digital journey, and we also had to define our destination. And our destination, we call it Lights Out. And it's actually a concept that has been increasingly recognized also in within operational excellence science. And for us, a Lights Out state is operational state where you are able to produce a product or service without the interference of humans. So you are able to do it with your lights out. We thought it was really important to create our understanding of the digital journey and also our understanding of the digital destination due to a quote from a Hanover Messe in 2019 that we participated in, where Angela Merkel, she said to the Germans that you need to be ready in 2025 or history in 2035. So if we were to help our clients with being ready in 2025, we had to understand this a little bit better. And how we see things and what we think of this quote is that being ready in 2025 actually means that you have acknowledged that you are on a journey, you have defined the overall steps on your journey, and that you have a defined destination. Then we truly believe that you will not be history in 2025. And if you're not there yet, then I will share our visioning on the subject today, and maybe you can get inspired from that. So we have asked ourselves two crucial questions. How does the journey look like, and what is the critical success factors when you are starting your journey? And to figure out the journey itself, we have actually designed a phased model, which you will see here. So these are stages that we believe any company needs to go through in order to reach a lights out state. And this phased model start in a phase called manual records, where everything is still pen to paper, where we still have our documents saved in file cabinets and so on. We have limited data on our lines, and we have limited systems to support us in our daily prioritization. Then we have an evolution where the next stage is something we call system and reports. Then we have live data, signals, advices, predictions, adjustments, and then lights out. And I will go into details with what we believe is critical in each of these stages. But before I go into the details with that, I think it's very important for me to state that when we are talking to our customers about the digital evolution and the digital journey that they are all starting up these days, we often tend to talk a lot about the hardware and the software and the systemic aspects related to IT and technology that needs to be in place in order to be prepared for the journey. But we argue that you will not succeed by looking into systems, software, IT, and hardware alone. You also need to look into cultural aspects of the journey. You also need to look into how we are designing a workforce that can actually support this journey. So there is a lot of behavioral aspects that you need to take into consideration. We simply see a lot of customers not getting the return on investments in big investments in systems and software due to the fact that they have not thought about the behavioral aspects of digitalization. So down here, you can see some of the systemic and behavioral aspects that I would recommend you guys to consider when you start your digital journey. You of course need to store data, you need accessibility, you need security, but you definitely also need validity, and you need to measure the right things at the right place at the right time. You need to be able to visualize your data. You need to use it. You not only want to see it, but you also need to use it for improving your processes. You need to be able to analyze it, and especially the lower or the upper levels in the model on top here, the analytical competences really become a critical aspect. And then there's also the cultural changes that comes with digitalization in general. Now I will actually go through each of the steps, so how we see the evolution across the steps. And we'll start with manual records. For us, manual records is a state where the workers that are entering a production line in the morning, they do simply not know what will hit them throughout the day, because they do not have data to actually tell them what they can expect. All the critical documents are still stored in cabinets. If you have data collection on the line, it's manual. And whenever you do performance evaluation, it is done with numbers that has been released from finance, which means that they have been worked upon for quite a while. So it's with a huge delay you actually get data, so you can start reacting on what you see on your line. And then some might say, why did you put a robotic arm here in the very beginning of the digital evolution? And that's because robotic arms have been there for years. It needs to be programmed, but then they can actually work without too much data and too much, how can I say, too much interference from us. So it's not a new thing. We have robotic arms that are old. The next step is something we call system and reports. And this is actually a step where the lean mindset have really helped companies to mature. And in this stage, we are starting, how can I say, investing in IT, in systems. It could be simple planning systems. It could be systems to store our standard operating procedures, to store our documentation, and so on. We also start counting data. So here we start actually collecting data that we are extracting to get easily available performance data from the line. And this we typically use on performance boards, where we are looking at a day of production and try to set up good activities to actually solve the problems on the line. In this stage, we still have manual performance evaluations. So it's pen to paper boards, it's pen to paper T-cards to control whether we have a good or a bad day. And there is a lot of, how can I say, administration of these processes in order to be able to track whether you are ahead or whether you are behind. The good thing about this step is that our operators, they actually start getting information that can help them prioritize the day and do systematic problem solving where needed. The next step in the maturity model is what we call live data. Here we start actually getting data that is readily available. So we start building dashboards to make critical data points available for our operators. So now in a live data situation, we need data sources. It could both be from web cameras, it can be from counters, it can be environmental monitoring, but we need to be able to store the data, and we need to be able to display it and extract it on a live basis. And what we put on the boards so that our colleagues can actually take a conscious decision upon the data, that is only the aspects of the data that they can actually do something about. We don't want to look at stuff we can't do anything about. So on our boards, we have all the critical metrics that our operators need in order to react on the line. It also becomes possible to use more sophisticated tracking and trending on our key parameters. So systems, statistical process control systems, for instance, becomes really interesting because we actually get access to data that will enable us to do live trending on our control parameters. This means that we will also go from a situation where we are reacting on all our special causes, on all our problems that happen on a line, to a focus where we can focus on stability, and where we can, how can I say, keep on adjusting and keep on understanding how smaller interactions with the line can keep it running. So instead of focusing on problem solving for the operator down here, he can actually start focusing on the number of minutes without stops on the line. And that is a huge change in mindset within our workforce. It will be harder to see the daily hero, but it will be easier to actually praise the collective performance of a team when you have very high stabilization. Also, our manager here, he can actually start taking proactive decisions because he has data readily available that he can use to foresee what will happen on the next shift. Our next phase is what we call signal, because when we start to have readily available data and easy to extract data, we can also, how can I say, overdo it. We can put too many measure points up, and there is a human limit to how much information we can actually take in. So the capacity within our brains are actually limited in terms of the information we can capture. So therefore, at some point, it makes sense to build in signals to the way that we operate. And in practical terms, that means that we actually put in specification limits to our data. And when we have specification limits on our trackers, so our counters or our environmental trackers, it means that whenever we are outside those limits, we will get a push message. So the system will actually signal what we need to do. Therefore, the operator do not need to prioritize between a lot of different data points. He will actually get told by the system where he needs to look in order to fix the problems at hand. The supporter up here looking at control charts, he will also be notified which key parameters are most important for him to look at based on the behavior of the data itself. And the guy here that are supporting everything, his major job is to make sure that the limits are correct and the limits are maintained, because there is a huge trust issue in this phase as well, because people need to trust the limits in order to react accordingly to the signals that they get. It will enable the manager to do even better predictions of the next phases of the production, to take even better decisions. At this point in the model, it is also really important that we start logging the activities we do on the line. So whenever there is a problem, we need to also log into our data sources what we do about it, because this data becomes crucial if we want to advance through the model. Because the next phase is called advices. And here we actually need to use all the activities. We need to use the data, the historic data on the line, and also what we have done when problems have occurred, to build sophisticated recommender models. That is what we show up here. So the guy that has previously been using all his time updating KPIs, we now need to make sure that he actually gets some model building capabilities. He needs to use all our stop data, all our action data, to build models that can recommend to us what is the best next step to take when a problem occurs. So instead of getting signals for where to look, the signals or all the red spots here on the drawing is actually recommendations for what to do. So we build in to the system and into sophisticated models that are deployed in our system, we build in advices, so people are actually told what to do and what is the best next step for the line to get it up and running. This can also be used in abnormality detection in our on video-based equipment or in standard operating procedures that are just checked through a QR code. The next step is sort of similar to advices. We just become way more advanced. We need to be able to do even more advanced modeling, because now we actually want to predict what will happen on the model. And this does require a huge amount of data. Therefore, I've also put some extra sensors on the line just to illustrate that now we are really interested in harvesting all our input parameters, because we need a lot of information, a lot of data to do sophisticated models that can actually predict what will happen. But now, instead of getting an advice for what to do when a problem occurs, we will actually get an advice on what to do before a problem occurs. So therefore, we will be able to actually take preventive actions all the time to make sure our line does never stop. At this phase, or up until this phase, we have not been requiring any automation. But if we want to advance in our model here, now we need to take automation into consideration, because our next step is what we call adjustment. And here the models that we have built in the previous step actually need to interact with the equipment. So we can start implementing AGVs, for instance, and I also illustrated it with an extra robotic arm in here in the filling process, because now we actually need the models to interact with our equipment. So if we need an adjustment, then the model will actually tell the system, and then the system will adjust accordingly. So this requires automation. This requires that our systems and our models are able to talk with our equipment. It also moves some of our operators away from the line, but we believe that we still need them, because we still need to maintain our models, because they are crucial at this point in time. Our last step is what we call lights out. And lights out for us is when the entire chain of activities are actually able to communicate with each other and to balance demand according to what is happening in each step. All fill-ups and so on the line are done. Now we are illustrating it by drones, but at least it's done without having people interfering with our processes. But we do not believe that all people are just taken out of the equation. We do believe that there are jobs for people in the future as well, but they will have a different job. They will be situated in the control rooms, maintaining and developing the model that are actually controlling our process equipment. They are also monitoring, large data set related to the market in order to keep improving the business. So in the future, our lines will be able to run with lights out, but our control rooms will have people in them to actually make our AI functions and our models even more sophisticated. So lastly, I have 3 recommendations for you guys that are working with these subjects. You need to define your destination. So what is your lights out? It might not be our lights out, but it might be somewhere along our maturity model. And you need to take it in as part of your business strategy. I would also recommend you to avoid isolated digitalization use cases, because you might not get the return on investments on them. You need to make sure that you invest on the digital tools that can actually help you mature throughout the digital evolution phase, or a phase model that I showed you. And then my last point would be, you need to take behavioral aspects into consideration when you do your digital journey. Because if people do not trust data, if people do not trust your models, then they will not act according to them. And then you will not get the opportunity to actually improve through digital aids. So take behavioral aspects into considerations as well. If not, then it will be very hard for you to advance to the advice level. that was all for me, Simona.
Yes, thank you very much, Lina. I really love the way you have presented the journey and the level of detail for each and every stage, and also very insightful recommendations at the end. I hope our attendees, our listeners, find it as interesting as I do. We have actually prepared for them 2 questions to learn about their journey and their strategy, right? So I will start with their destination strategy. And I will launch this poll, and please let us know what is your strategy for digitalization. Right, so we have few people that don't work in manufacturing, so probably in consultancy. Yes, so we have live data and lights out, a strategy. Sorry, I didn't share the results. Now you can see.
Yes. Oh, lights out. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Ambitious.
Ambitious
Ambitious people in the room. Yes.
Yes. Thank you for answering. And now the second question we want to know, what is your state? So yeah. So here are the answers. So systems and reports advice. And some people that didn't figure out what stage are they in. And for questions and answers, I hope Salman managed to hear Lina, but we don't have any other questions. You can also ask the questions by raising the hand, and I will allow you to talk, and I will unmute you. So let me know. You will wait a little bit. There is nothing coming. Great. So thank you very much for joining us today for the first episode of this webinar series. We will be preparing more topics for you, and stay tuned. We will announce them soon. Yeah, we will announce the next one soon. At the end of the webinar, you will get a very short questionnaire, and we will ask you to evaluate the topic of today. And also, if you would like to give us feedback, you have a space for it where you can just write your comments. And also, if you have suggestions for new topics, feel free to write them in. Also, if you have questions regarding Lina's presentation, just drop me an email, and I will make sure to reach out Lina and get the answers for you. Right. So thank you for attending the webinar, and I hope we will see each other at the next episode. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.